Week 5 is upon us, and with that comes bye weeks. Bye weeks, this is where kicker streamers start to become really important. They help you round out your roster when you might have a bye, you might have an injury. We're going to help you out with that. Kicker streamers and rankings for week 5. I will tell you guys, 66% of the time, my kicker streamers have scored at least 8 points. We've had double digit points in there. We've had top 10 finishes, top 5 finishes. So let's not waste any more of your time. Let's get into it right now. What's going on, everybody? My name is Michael Hoff, part of the Face Off Sports Network. And yes, today we are coming at you with the kickers and the streamers and the rankings for week 5 of this fantasy football season. I did mention at the top that we have the Falcons, we have the Bears, Packers, Steelers on bye. There are bye weeks. And those are, if you look at them, obviously Chris Boswell hangs out there. Cairo Santos, who was the #1 kicker last week, he is on a bye. Parker Romo, who sometimes he puts up 0, sometimes he puts up more than 10 points. He's on a bye. So, and then McManus, of course, who had a nice week as well. So those are some important kickers that are rostered in a lot of leagues that you're going to have to sit this week. So hopefully these streamers and these rankings can help you out. My name is Michael Hopp. Feel free to follow me on X at the FF Realist. Fire any comments that you have into the comments there. Questions, comments, I got you covered. I literally answer every single one. Try me. But yeah, so do that and be sure to hit the like button, subscribe button, all that fun stuff. But let's get into a little bit of what I always like to do towards the top of the show. I'll make it short and sweet. Why do kickers matter? Because again, people like to laugh at kickers. They think kickers don't matter. Why would you waste your time doing this video, Mike? Well, if kickers are in your league and their points scored means whether you win or lose a game, they matter. And I'll tell you why they matter. Last week, I mentioned Cairo Santos, the #1 kicker in fantasy, put up 17 points in half-point formats. That was more than Jahmyr Gibbs, Cortland Sutton, and even Darren Waller, who had 2 touchdowns. So you're getting productivity from these kickers. You just got to pay attention to them. It could be the difference between you winning and losing. We see a lot of games where people lose by a point or two. That's where kickers matter, man. So but let's do a really quick recap of last week. Spencer Schrader, one of my favorite kickers in fantasy. He will be in the top 12 rankings, but he will not be one of our streamers because you guys have smartened up. He is now rostered in just over 50% of sleeper leagues. He did get us 10 points last week, though, so that's good to know. Eddie Pinheiro, in a losing effort for the 49ers against the Jacksonville Jaguars, went up and scored 7 points. But listen, sometimes we get a dud here, and Joey Sly, he was that dud last week. Missed 2 kicks early, went on to score 0 points. Not great, Bob. Don't love that. So, I mean, the field goal attempts on a per game basis were there. The extra points were there. His percentage of hitting kicks was there. So it was all there. But you know what? What can we do? We got to rebound. We got to get better. So we're going to do that right now. We're going to get into these streamer picks. Again, these are 3 picks. They're all rostered in usually they're rostered in less than 50% of sleeper leagues. These guys are actually rostered in less than 10% of sleeper leagues. So even if your waivers ran, these guys should be available. Jason Myers is the first pick of the Seattle Seahawks. He went ahead. He's going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He is rostered in just 6% of leagues. Myers is currently the 3rd best kicker in fantasy football. That is due in large part to Myers scoring 29 points over the last 2 weeks. As I had mentioned, the Seahawks are welcoming in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers have allowed kickers to score at least 9 points in 3 out of the 4 games. So between the productivity we're getting from Myers and the points that are being allowed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to me, with teams on bye, Jason Myers is a shoo-in for the top 12. And he is my favorite streamer pick of the week that I have. Up next, we're going to stick in the NFC West, and we're going to go with Chad Ryland of the Arizona Cardinals going up against the Tennessee Titans. Ryland enters the week 13th amongst kickers, but he's also coming off of his 2nd game with 10 or more points scored. The other thing, too, about Ryland, as a member of the Seahawks, member of the Cardinals, this is his 3rd year in the league. 2 of them with the Cardinals. When he kicks at home in Arizona, he has made 95.4% of their kicks. So that's the kind of reliability that we're looking for here. So love that as well. Along with that, in terms of the opponent, the Titans have allowed double-digit points in each of the last 2 weeks. And along with that, they have not allowed fewer than 8 points to a kicker this season. So you're getting a nice little bar there of 8 points. You're getting solid kicking percentages at home for Chad Ryland. So I like this matchup as well. We're going to leave the NFC West now, but we will stay in the NFC. And a kicker, and by the way, I forgot to mention, my apologies. Chad Ryland is rostered in just 3% of leagues. So Myers was 6, Ryland is 3. This guy goes even lower. He's rostered in 0% of leagues. And this is Jude Mikatami. Mikatami. I'm going to butcher the last name, so we're going to refer to him as Jude quite a bit here in this segment. But he does play for the New York Football Giants. He is rostered in 0% of leagues. It's going to be, for him, he's going to be going up against, he had 7 points last week, I apologize, against a Chargers team that was only allowing the 12th most points in fantasy to kickers. And he's going up against a Saints team this week, which is a much better opponent for him. The Saints are allowing the 6th most points. This includes 3 games with 10 points, with at least 10 points allowed. One of those games, they allowed more than 15. We're not getting too many of those so far in the early part of the season. So I like the opportunity here for Jude. They're going to New Orleans. He's rostered in 0% of leagues. We saw Jackson Dart was able to move the ball. Maybe gets a little more comfortable there. I know there's no Malik Neighbors, but that could also help them drive the ball but not be able to punch it in completely, in which case the field goal kicker matters. So I think if this offense starts to improve, we can see a kicker like Jude bring in some solid fantasy production for you. And again, it could be beneficial in a bye week. So those are our streamers. Myers rostered in 6% of leagues, Ryland rostered in 3, and then Jude rostered in 0% of leagues. Now let's get into the actual rankings for this week. I do this in tiers. Again, I'll remind you guys, if you have any questions about those streamers I just gave you or my rankings, feel free to enter comments in the comment section. I most certainly will answer all of them. First on our list is going to be Mr. Brandon Aubrey, our top-ranked kicker of the week. Cowboys are going to be going to the Jets. This is a perfect storm sort of matchup in terms of fantasy. The Jets are allowing the most points to kickers. They are also the only team to allow double-digit points to kickers in all 4 of their games this season. And Aubrey is second in points scored right now, and he's one of 2 kickers with multiple games of 15 points. So love to hear that. So we got the opponent. We've got Aubrey doing his thing. I love this. This is a reason why he's in tier 1 multiple times. So after that, though, the other kicker in tier 1, my second ranked kicker on the week, I mentioned I can no longer put him in my streamers because he's rostered over for 50% of leagues, but it's Spencer Schrader of the Indianapolis Colts. It's going to be the Colts against the Raiders. Right now, Spencer Schrader is first among kickers and scoring, which, by the way, again, I know I mentioned multiple times that he's rostered in just over 50% of leagues, but how is a player that's number 1 in scoring only rostered in just over 50% of the leagues? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So keep hitting that add button, guys. But yeah, so first among kickers and scoring, the only kicker in fantasy with double-digit points in all 4 of his games this year. That would include an average of 13.3 points, which, by the way, that's almost 2 points better than the next than the next player. The Raiders are 3rd in points allowed to kickers. That would include 33 points over the last 2 weeks, and that is more than 10 teams have allowed all season long. So that's kind of crazy. So we're getting a lot of points added here by the Raiders. So I love this matchup here, Spencer Schrader. That's going to round out my tier 1. Now, tier 2, I want to put a bit of a disclaimer here. Matt Prater is my 3rd-ranked kicker, but we do need to keep an eye on when Tyler Bass is coming back. We've heard nothing definitive. I mean, it should be open for him to return to practice, but it's just a matter of whether he's going to be ready here for week 5 or not. But this is why I got a ton of questions about Prater rest of season. Do I drop this guy for Prater? And I kept telling people no, because eventually Tyler Bass will be back. Prater will definitely land on an NFL team at some point when they need a kicker. But whatever. That disclaimer out of the way. He is my third ranked kicker. Even if it's Tyler Bass, he's going to be in this tier two, whether it's ranked third, whether it's ranked fourth, whether it's ranked fifth, he'll be in tier two. The Bills are going up against the Patriots. Entering week 5, Prater is the 7th best kicker in fantasy. And along with that, he has had 2 games with 10 plus points and hasn't scored less than 7 in a given week. So we like that kind of consistency as well. While the Patriots have only allowed 4 points in the last 2 weeks to kickers, they have also allowed 11 points in each of the first 2 weeks. So a bit of a seesaw there with the Patriots, but it is the Buffalo Bills coming to town. So I do think that points will just magically happen. That's how it goes when Buffalo's in town. Buffalo, by the way, they're attempting almost 2.5 field goals on a per game basis. That is towards the top half of the league. So we like that kind of opportunity as well. Again, whether it's Prater or whether it's going to be Bass. Going to our 4th ranked kicker, and in tier 2, it's going to be Cameron Dicker. The Chargers are visiting the Commanders. Dicker had only 4 points last week, but he has also had at least 8 points in his previous 3 matchups. One of those weeks would include 11 points scored. Meanwhile, the Commanders have allowed double-digit points in 2 out of the last 4 games. That would include last week when they allowed 10 points. Also important to note here, in the 2 home games the Chargers have had this season, they have attempted at least 3 field goals per game. So you like that kind of potential as well. So Cameron Dicker, I think, put some points on the board. Love him here in tier 2. Love him here in my top 5. Rounding out the top 5 and rounding out tier 2 is going to be Mr. Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. Butker is one of 3 kickers with double-digit points in 3 out of 4 games this year. And by the way, 13 points scored in week 4 has the Chiefs kicker as the 2nd highest scoring kicker in fantasy. Going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville, the Jaguars haven't allowed double-digit points in a game yet, but the Chiefs are 2nd in the league with 3.3 field goal attempts on a per game basis. So I do think that while the Jaguars haven't given up a ton, they did give up 7 last week to Pinheiro. I do think this is a nice opportunity for them to finally allow 10 points, and I think Harrison Butker benefits greatly from that. So that's rounding out tier 2. We're going to go to tier 3 again. If you guys have any questions, comments, feel free to fire them into the chat. But tier 3 here, we're going to go with our 6th ranked kicker, Mr. Jake Bates of the Detroit Lions, going up against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. The general consensus is that it's hard to rely on Jake Bates, Detroit Lions kicker, because of the fact that the Lions are notorious for going for it on 4th down. But even with that, Bates is still 10th in points at the position, and he scored 10 or more points in 2 out of the last 3 weeks. The Lions are also averaging 2 field goal attempts on a per game basis. So that's not terrible. And so I think ranking him here at 6 is fair, especially against the Bengals. Along with the Lions averaging 4 touchdowns on a per game basis too, by the way. So you're getting extra points there too. So between the kicks, the extra points, I think it just kind of it fixes itself, where yes, maybe Jake Bates shouldn't be ranked inside the top 3 every single week, but I think 6th rank is more than fair, top of tier 3 here. Our 7th ranked kicker is Jason Myers. Of course, you can go back. I've got timestamps in this video, or I'll have them shortly. But yeah, Jason Myers, go back to my streamers. He's my favorite streamer of the week. Our 8th ranked kicker this week, going up against the Seahawks, is going to be Chase McLaughlin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Always a mainstay in the top 12. Even against the Eagles last week, McLaughlin still had 15 points. That's coming off of the prior week when he had 21 points. So the Seahawks are middle of the pack, but this is kind of why Chase is ranked where he is. It's more about the opponent. If the opponent was more favorable, he probably would have cracked into tier 2, to be quite honest with you. But be that as it may, I still think that with the way the Buccaneers play offense, I think we're still going to get points, especially to justify an 8th ranking here. 8th spot ranking here for Chase McLaughlin. So that is my pick for the 8th best kicker on the week. And then Tyler Loop goes to number 9. Tyler Loop's kind of an interesting one. Started off the season with 10 plus points in the first 2 weeks, and since then has delivered performances of 6 and 8 points. So I got to break this low. By the way, the Ravens are going up against the Texans. I've got them ranked this low for two reasons. One, I'm curious with the loss of Lamar Jackson. I mean, I don't know if they've officially ruled him out. They might as well. They're saying he's going to miss 2 to 3 weeks, Lamar Jackson. So wonder how that affects the offense in terms of loop and kicking field goals. I will also be completely honest with this pick. I could see Loop falling between now and the time, he actually kicks the ball off in the game. He could fall down to, he could fall towards the back end of this top 12 rankings. Because to me, it was also something, looking at the Texans, and the Texans proved something to me last week. I didn't think that the going to be able to contain Joey Sly and the points that he was putting up, but the Texans have not. The Texans have allowed only 9 fantasy points to kickers all season long. I mentioned a bunch of stats where I'm like, 10 or more points in 2 out of the last 3 weeks, 10 or more points in all 4 games. The Texans have allowed 9 points to kickers all season long. The next worst team to the Texans would be the Detroit Lions, who have allowed 23 points. So the Texans are, for whatever reason, allowing zip, zilch, nada to kickers. So between those two things, I've got Tyler Loop ranked at 9th. Again, I could very easily see him moving to the back end of my top 12. Of all the guys in my top 12, this is probably the guy that I will recommend the least. But either way, I did want to get him in there in this top 12. Let's get to tier 4, though. Jude McEnany, who, again, he was another one who was in my streamer section, so you can go back to that. It'll be timestamped. You can take a look there at why I like him. Rostered in 0% of leagues. And then there was also Chad Ryland going up against the Titans, who was also a streamer. So go back to the timestamps. Rostered in 3% of leagues. So you do have some nice opportunity there. Lord knows those guys are going to be there. Let's get to the last kicker I like here in my top 12. And he could be available too. He's not rostered in a ton of leagues either. But, it's going to be Joshua Carty going up against the San Francisco 49ers. This one is a Thursday night game, though, so keep that in mind. After a measly 2-point performance in week 1, Carty has been averaging 11.3 points over the last 3 weeks. Love to see that. And he's going up against the 49ers team that has allowed 7 points in 3 of the 4 games this year. And also important to note, in his 2 games last year against the San Francisco 49ers, Carty was able to put up 9 points and then 12 points. So we like that kind of production. So I think Joshua Carty is a player who can do some damage this week and be a player inside the top 12. So again, we went through tier 1, we went through tier 2, 3, 4, gave you 3 streamers rostered in less than 10% of leagues. Hopefully that helps you guys out this week. If you need more help or if you have any questions about these rankings, fire them into the comments. I will get back to every single one of you, and hit the like button. And of course, folks, that will do it. So until next time, stay thirsty, be kind to one another. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. Cheers.